Change affects everyone differently, and there's no one formula or recipe that can get one back to normal that existed before COVID 19, where we felt relatively safe and secure in going back to office. In this fireside chat, Unmesh Pawar, partner KPMG India, and Puja Bothra, senior content lead ETHRWorld, will discuss on navigating the new normal with a changed mindset. Over to you, Ms. Bothra.
Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-speaker today for this fireside chat. With more than 25 years of international experience building high-performance leadership teams to meet business outcomes, Unmesh is a sought-after leader in the HR space. In his former role as People, Performance and Culture Lead at KPMG India, he was responsible for building differentiated capabilities in the marketplace, to designing and deploying complex talent acquisition and management practices. Prior to KPMG, he had a 17-year innings at Accenture, and that culminated with him being the global managing director HR for their products operating group. Leading large-scale complex organizational culture change and building high-performance teams has been a hallmark of Unmesh's career. He combines his broad business knowledge and commercial acumen to help ensure potential of people is enhanced and central to delivering business result. Unmesh is a regular conference host, presenter, and moderator at various HR leadership forums in India and overseas. HR 40 Under 40 acclaimed him to be a top role model HR influencers for 2 years back to back in 2018 and 2019. Can I say I'm delighted to welcome and chat with Unmesh? Oh, yes. At this first ever virtual tech festival by ETHRWorld, I'm delighted to be chatting with Unmesh. Unmesh, I'm so happy that you are here. And welcome to our ETHRWorld NexTech Festival.
Thank you, Puja. Thank you for having me, and a hello to everybody who's attending this Tech Fest. And it's amazing, right? I mean, in times like this, being able to connect with everybody and being able to share and learn in the process is just great times. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Unmesh. Thank you. So, Unmesh, your career spans over 25 years. You started as a generalist HR manager, and you just exited as the CPO of KPMG. So, what have been the most defining moments for you in these 25 years that you would consider them as milestones that helped you to climb the ladder, go from one post to another post?
Look, I think it's a great question. Now that you say, I reflect back on the journey of almost a little over 2.5 decades that it has been. But I think if I trace my journey, I think my journey has a lot to do with what's happened as macro incidents in the environment that we operated in. I think for me, distinctly, the Y2K bust of 2000, the 2001 9/11, the 2007 2008 financial service crisis. All of these kind of have been defining moments because I was part of organizations that had to weather that storm to a degree. And I feel very privileged because in times like these, managing a downturn, you don't have a copybook to that. You can only experience it. And I think I had the privilege of being part of organizations where I picked up the ropes very early of say, how do you manage a situation like that? So that's one. And the other side is also the opportunity I've had to lead the growth engine for my earlier organization that I'd worked with, i.e. Accenture. I think where I spent my largest time in my career, which is 17 years, from a startup to hiring the first 40,000 people for that firm in India, setting up the talent management function, and then being part of global roles where led the transformation of a business globally, reinvented that business together with the business leaders that were there, and then being part of a journey of starting two new businesses, strategy and digital for Accenture globally. I think all of that experience, the global local nature of the operating, managing across cultures, I think all of them have been very defining for me. And that possibly took me somewhere down the path of taking over the role with KPMG. And KPMG was going through a transformation, and they were looking for an HR leader to come and lead that. And that's when, about in 2018, I decided to go on leaving Accenture and joining KPMG and leading that journey. And I feel very privileged in 3 years' time as I sign off from KPMG. KPMG clearly is an employer of choice. And what better legacy that I can have working with the team there? That I think all of these have been really inflection moments where I just feel very privileged and blessed to have had the opportunity to make those changes and impacts out there.
Thank you, Unmesh. And we'll wait to know what your next plan is, what the next 10 years are going to be. So, we'll be here to cover that as well.
Sure.
So, the next question is building individual resilience and empowering teams in the new work order of hybrid workforce and gig economy is challenging. What have been some of the innovative initiatives that you've taken in your previous organization?
I think, Pooja, it's a great question, right? I think 2020, I think, was really a year of reckoning for a lot of business leaders, HR leaders, and especially HR as a function. And right through this pandemic, I think the function, not just, I speak not just for KPMG, but I think world over, HR really stood up and got itself counted, right? I think the HR leaders across the world did a remarkable job, in my mind, of taking care of employee health, employee safety, well being, and all this had to be done in a very agile fashion, right? I think we use this opportunity of the disruption that came about to really to help forge forward our organizations. And I think and whilst we did all of this, I think keeping employee morale high, employee engagement high, in spite of the fact that people were now working mostly from home. We had to reinvent communication. I think the traditional methods that we used for communicating with people when people came to office was now communicating to people very differently, getting our managers connected with our people very differently. And managing this hybrid environment, I think, truly was and is challenging. And I think in this entire thing, I think the social contract between the employer and the employee has changed. And I think organizations now clearly realize that employee well-being of those around our employees, mental, emotional well-being of all that community is equally important for us to be successful. And more than that, the communities that we operate in is also more important. Now, when I come back to my own house within KPMG, I think the one thing that we did at the kickoff, as soon as the COVID pandemic started, was launched a concept called Vitamin Josh. And KPMG Josh is something that you guys have heard about, but Vitamin Josh is really about taking care of physical, emotional, mental, and the home of our people. And we had various interventions across each of these that ran continuously right through and even now, to be able to ensure that the mental, physical, emotional resilience of our people was taken care of. Parallelly, what we launched was what we call as learning journeys, and ensuring that we are investing in building skills for our people, and skills that were going to be next generational skills that were going to help them stay current and relevant to their clients. I think, and those learning journeys, in my mind, ensure that in the market that we were in, we continued to be relatively successful and helping our clients manage that. We launched the gig platform through all of this, which is really about creating an internal gig, allowing people within the organization an option or a marketplace to go out there and work on engagements and possibly projects that they are more passionate and excited about. Launching millennial councils, providing the younger generation of our workforce a larger, greater voice in shaping what the organization as we move forward is going to be. And finally, leveraging reverse mentoring for our leaders and future leaders. So those are some of the things that we did right through the last year to be able to ensure that we are building an organization that is really thriving and future ready.
Thank you. That's very, very interesting, Unmesh. And I particularly like the concept of reverse mentoring. And it's really amazing to see how organizations are now taking it, leveraging this concept so well and having formal structures and programs to really encourage reverse mentoring.
Right.
My next question is to do more with HR. Now, when we talk about transformations in the workplace, HR is also transforming. And various factors are responsible for this transformation, like the advent of new technologies, AI, cloud computing, data sciences, globalization. Even in India, globalization is one thing, but even in India now, you don't need to come to cities to work. With remote working, you can work in tier 3 cities, tier 2 cities. So you will, with 80% or more people working remotely, HR has to change. And how would you articulate the transformation of HR in the new normal?
I think, well, as I said, this is a time for reinventing HR, because let's agree that we are never going to go back to the normalcy that we had in 2019. We have, it's a new world order, and like Nasib Taleb says, this is an organization needs to be anti-fragile. And anti-fragile doesn't mean that you come, you weather a storm, and you go back to where it was. No, it's not going to happen, right? We have to acquire new behaviors, new skill sets, because let's be very real, right? Our clients and our consumers have drastically changed their behaviors over the last 1 year. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, people now in tier 2, tier 3 segments of are getting so comfortable buying stuff online. Just look at the amount of UPI payments that are happening, cashless as much as possible, touchless as much as possible. So I think with all of that happening, organizations have no choice but to reinvent the business, and second is to reinvent the operating model with which they operate. Now when both of those are changing, there is no hope that HR can continue doing what it was. So HR clearly is changing. And I think one thing that really we all realized through this is that whilst we all relied on data, we realized that we don't have enough data, or we didn't have current data on your people. And I think organizations that did a good job of digitizing or then digitalizing both these journeys, organizations that were proactive about this, they actually thrived through this period. And I think organizations, I mean, think about it, right? If you did not have data on where your people are they safe, are they not safe, if you don't have channels built in to know continuously who is potentially being affected by the pandemic, how are people, what are symptoms that if anybody is showing, because inability to have access to that information meant that you would not be able to support your clients in the end. If you didn't have enough data with respect to talent, with respect to skills that your people had, your chances to mobilize talent from one project or one part of your business to another part of the business, because you now had to reposition your business, that was not going to happen. So I think organizations clearly realize the power of data and what's going to happen forward. In my mind, these are very interesting times for us. And I think data is going to be important. Organizations are going to mine people data much more than they have traditionally done. I think with that, you're going to start looking at data at every stage or every touch point that the organization of an employee within the organization, and collecting data real time and using what I call as the nudge approach and nudging people. No dissimilar to how you see on Netflix, people who watch this also watch this. So imagine, right? If you're looking at somebody is working on something, is trying to make something on an Excel sheet, or trying to make something on a PowerPoint, uh, using the organizational listening methods, using the organizational analytics capability, if there is a nudge to say that you potentially could look at this nugget, small nugget of training that will help you with this quickly. So you're not going away for training, but training now somehow figures out and is built into the flow of the work that you are doing, right? So that's something that's very interesting that's going to happen. You're going to start to see experience that people are going to go through is going to be enmeshed further. So everything is going to be in the flow. Similarly, you're going to start to see performance management be done very differently. The whole postmortem approach to performance management, saying what you did well, what you did not do well, while that is decent, but I think the focus that organizations are going to take going forward is really going to be about what skills are we building for the future, because skills are going to be the currency that is going to keep organizations agile. So therefore performance management is going to collect data sets for the performance manager and the individual from different subsets to see how are people performing, what are people learning, how are people interacting with clients or internal stakeholders, and all of that data set should be able to offer the supervisor, the manager, the insight to really figure whether the individual in question or the subordinate that they have is working towards a particular goal of building a skill set. And I think that's going to be the other thing in the moment conversations that you're going to start to see happen more. You're going to use listening methods much more, because in a distributed environment where you don't have the benefit of people face to face, you have to be that much more sensitive to our employees, because let's be very real, we have now encroached on the homes of our people. And let's agree, our homes are our private
Mm.
spaces. So how do you ensure that you are keeping your organizational data sanctity, organizational data security, but at the same time ensuring that the privacy of your employees home is not invaded in any way? So I think these are going to be very interesting and challenging things. I think going forward, HR is going to see a very nice enmesh of man and machine, where both bots and humans are going to work together, what they call as super jobs of the future. So that is going to happen. And in my mind, we have a very active role to play, shepherding this journey for our organization.
That's very interesting. We are really living in very exciting times as we are witnessing this transformation.
I think it's exciting, but I think it's also there's a lot of responsibility
Responsibility.
that comes with it,
Yes.
Puja, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's be very true that with all this data that you're collecting,
Hmm.
there is always a bias that could play out in the algorithms that are being used. So how do we
True.
ensure that that algorithmic bias is not there? That there is traditionally there is no other bias playing out, or that you're not creating further exclusion for different segments within the. I mean, what if there are employees who are not comfortable with the whole digital experience?
No, I totally agree.
Are they going to be out of this entire remit? So you cannot have a one fit solution. You will have to figure out how do you make this entire journey inclusive but yet impactful for the organization and every individual in it.
I totally agree. And, it's actually very, sometimes very scary also that how much data can pick up information on you.
Yeah,
And not all information should have been in public domain.
I think.
So recently, we were talking about freshers onboarding, and this leader from an organization had to say that they have all the data about the freshers they are hiring based on their social media accounts. So, I mean, when these people get into social media, I don't think they are thinking 5, 7 years ahead of them. So, I totally agree that though it's exciting times, but yet a lot of responsibility, and, you have to be careful. You have to be careful with where you go, how you do, and what you do.
Look, I mean, the fact of the matter is there is no hiding space now. You have cameras everywhere you go today.
Yes.
So you're not, I mean, you just need to be conscious that there is no, other than the four walls of your house, hopefully, and you don't have active Alexa and other devices running, you're
Mm.
not, you're under scrutiny all the time. And I think we need to get used to and understanding that our devices are listening to us all the time.
Yeah. So when we are talking about Generation Z and this whole cohort who will be joining workplace soon or have just joined workplace in the last 1 or 2 years, so from your 25 long years of experience and expertise in different organizations, what would your advice be? How should they plan their careers? Do they focus on being a specialist, a generalist? How do they upskill themselves? What kind of multi domain functional experiences and projects they should be investing their time and effort in? So what would you like to tell them?
I think, look, I mean, though I have more than 2.5 decades of experience, I think I'm learning every day, right?
Mm.
And I can tell you that all the experience that you had did not prepare anybody for the pandemic, and therefore it feels a bit overwhelming for me to sit here and advise. But the little that I can say is, I think just recently coming out of this whole victory that the Indian cricket team had in Australia, I think there's so many learnings for all of us, right? I think, and people talk about, well, everybody has a role and you have to play a defined role. And I get that, but I think when I broadly look at this, you need to first and foremost, I think, understand that HR as a function is a function where there's a lot of responsibility on us, because we actually are responsible for the moral fabric of the organization. We're dealing with human beings and human lives, and tomorrow we have to worry about the man machine combination and what it does. And therefore, there is a lot of onus and responsibility on us as a function. HR as a function is reinventing itself every couple of years. I think we are potentially in what they call as HR 3.0 that we are now entering. And in all of this, I think my submission for people who are starting their careers or are looking at HR as a career. So first and foremost, I already said that it's a very responsible function, and therefore join it if you are genuinely excited and want to make impact and change for organizations through the people agenda, right? So that's one element. The second element is it doesn't matter what role is offered to you, whether you are offered a generalist role or a specialist role to start off with your career. What It doesn't matter where you start from, but it really matters where you want to be. So if you are very clear of where you want to be, make use of the opportunity that you have. I mean, think about it. All the youngsters who debuted in this series for India, they made the most of the opportunity. Some of them would have never made it to test cricket had we not had the injuries we had. So when you get in, ensure that you make the most, grab the opportunity with both the hands, and invest as much time. So if you enter as a generalist, invest the time to really understand the business, understand how you make money, how you lose money, how you can gain market share, what your how your revenues and sales factor in the marketplace, and what that means. Try and build a good appreciation for that. Use the time in your generalist role to understand which of the segments in the HR lifecycle are you really excited with, and then look for opportunities to build specialization in those different functions. And I can tell you, if you want to be a successful HR leader, then it's imperative, I'd like to believe, that you do a tour of the different functions within HR, because people who have never done a COE or a specialization or specialist role have always been generalists, I feel, are are missing out on something. And people who have always played specialist roles and have never had a generalist stint are also missing out. So if you want to be able to be a good HR leader who can bring the best of HR for your business and make change happen for your business, then please try and figure out the option of making the whole tour across different HR functions. Now, most companies would not allow you that option. And therefore, what people end up doing is to quit from one place to go to another place so that they can have that role. My submission is, have that conversation inside your organization, talk to your HR leaders, and try and create a movement within the organization of internal mobility. Because the value of having an HR person who's done multiple different roles in an organization is huge for an organization, because you understand the organization, you have tacit understanding of the business, and then the impact that you can have when you do all these stints is impressive. So my submission, make the most of it, irrespective of where you enter from, but do the tour across before you come into a senior HR leader role.
Very true. Unmesh, and I totally agree that communication is very important. It is the key. You know, if you
Yep.
can communicate with your peers, with your managers, I mean, there is a whole world of learning out there. And only when you say what's in your mind, you get a solution. So
I mean,
most of the
I mean,
time,
it's so well said, Pooja, right? Because I think, and that's my worry for the current generation that's coming in, right? Because I think we are losing the art of communication,
communication.
because they've been, sorry to use the cliched word, but there is a sense of entitlement that this group has. And therefore the belief is that my parents understand all my needs, and I can get
Get
what I
away.
want,
Yeah.
right? My supervisors need to, I mean, it's different being a parent and being a supervisor. I'm a parent and a supervisor. I cannot say that I understand everything that my daughter is going through, and I understand everything that my people who work for me go through. Therefore, it's important to put it out there. And therefore, the new avatar of performance management, which is really focused on building for the future, right? Feed forward, really looking at what you want to go forward to, and helping people work on on the intersection of their passion, aspiration, and strengths is the way forward.
Amazing. Very true. I'm sure, our viewers out here are getting great takeaways and insights from you. So, one last question would be, what's your mantra to navigate the new normal? So that's in just one sentence. Tell me what's your mantra?
Constant learning and being open to learning. I think that's my mantra, and just resilience. That's where it is.
Yeah, very true. Amazing. So thank you, Unmesh. Thank you for all those insights. Thank you for speaking to us so candidly and sharing your, 25 long years of experience in these 20 minutes. So, very bullet pointed pointers from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Puja, and all the best to ETHR and the entire team, and to the entire HR fraternity. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Mr. Pawar and Ms. Bothra, for an engaging chat session. Stay tuned for much more information.